We all know what stress feels like. I know I get stressed when I'm running late for things, or there are deadlines that I need to meet, or if I have too many responsibilities going on at the same time. And I particularly get stressed when other people don't seem to do what I want them to do, even after I've explained it to them. And then there are those bigger worries in life. In the past, I've had concerns with finances when it felt like money was running out, when I've had to make a difficult career choice and there's no clarity in what direction I should take. And I've also been worried when there's a loved one who's been seriously unwell. And whenever I experience stress or worry, there are some things that are common in those experiences. I always know that it doesn't feel very nice. I feel overwhelmed that things are not in my control. At the time, I feel like stress and worry is my only option. And then at the end of it, I feel a sense of guilt because I'm supposed to know the spiritual knowledge, and yet I've not been able to apply it in this particular situation. So in this lesson, we're going to be looking at why do we get stressed? How can stress cause us harm? Practical advice on how to handle stressful situations, and in the longer term, how we can reduce worries in our life. It's not all bad with stress. In fact, stress can be quite useful, and it's important to know why we have stress in our life. Whenever you hear a scientist talk about it, they always mention that stress is a survival mechanism. So when our ancestors were cavemen, they needed a way to run away when they're being chased by a tiger. And whenever that happens, the body releases chemicals. You've probably heard of fight or flight. Well, what that means is the chemicals in our body help us to take action when we need to in order to survive. So why is this a problem? Well, those chemicals were only meant to be in our body for a short period of time. But today, we seem to be constantly stressed, whether it's pressure from work or family. And what that means is those stress chemicals stay in our body for a much longer period of time. And this has now been shown to lead to a number of different health problems. And these include heart disease, stroke, diabetes, reduced immunity, increased aging, and even cancer. I don't smoke or drink alcohol, mainly because I don't want those chemicals in my body. But when I learned more about stress, I realized that my own body was producing chemicals that were harmful to me. Like most people, I must admit that sometimes I find it really difficult to manage my stress. It's so much easier to just escape the feelings by watching a screen or overeating and drinking things that are not healthy for me. But I'm not actually dealing with the stress. Instead, for a short term, all I'm trying to do is forget my worries. Regardless of what I'm worried about, the underlying concern is that something is not going my way, or that I'm not going to be okay if the worst happens. So the emotion that we're trying to escape is fear. So what can we actually do to address the fear? The wisdom of the Guru offers both short-term and long-term solutions. Let's look at two short-term solutions. The first is to bring your attention to what is real in the present moment. A few years ago, I took my children to a museum where they were going to learn all about volcanoes and earthquakes. And in that museum, they had a simulator where you could experience what it felt like to be in an earthquake. And that night, my son just could not sleep because he was so worried about an earthquake or a volcano erupting. And as much as I tried to explain that there are no volcanoes in London, nothing I said could really help him. In the end, I tried to get him to recognize the emotion of fear that he was experiencing. The things that he was worried about were just imagined. They weren't real. I tried to explain that fear is a false event appearing real. And in the end, what helped was to try to bring him into reality by getting him to focus on his breath and moving his attention away from his worries and bringing it to the present moment. In the Guru Granth Sahib, it teaches us, with each and every breath, remember the divine. Let all worries disappear from your mind. Bringing our attention to the breath has been shown to be effective in reducing stress. I'm sure you've noticed that when your mind is racing, you begin to breathe faster. Well, the opposite is also true. If you slow your breathing down, it begins to slow the pace of your thoughts. And as we slow our breathing down, at the same time, if we remember that there is a life force within us that is looking after us, that is breathing for us, keeping our heart beating, we begin to become comfortable that there is a universal force all around that is in control of everything. And as soon as we do that, our worries reduce and everything is put into perspective. The second solution is to always remember your blessings. There's a wonderful story of a king who went on a hunting trip. And on that trip, he met with an accident where he lost one of his fingers. He went back to his kingdom and he told his best advisor. And the advisor always had the same response for everything. Something good will come from this. The king was so angry and enraged by this that he arrested his advisor and threw him in jail. The advisor again calmly replied, "Something good will come from this." A few weeks later, the king was on another hunting trip. And on this trip, the king got surrounded and captured by a local tribe. The tribe tied him up and took him to their village. And the tribal elders decided that they were going to sacrifice this king to their gods. And just when they were about to kill the king, somebody noticed that his finger was missing. And because his body wasn't whole, they couldn't sacrifice him to their gods. And so in the end, they decided to set him free. The king ran back to his kingdom and told his advisor, to which the advisor replied, "I told you that something good was going to come of this." The king thought about it and he said, "Well, something good happened to me, but all this time you've been locked in jail. How has this been something good for you?" The advisor replied, "My king, you know that I travel with you everywhere. If you hadn't have locked me in this jail, I would have gone with you on that hunting trip. And as soon as they realized that your body wasn't whole, it would have been me that they would have sacrificed." In many places in the Guru Granth Sahib, we see the wisdom teach us to sing divine praises. And this is what it means to remember that life is constantly providing for you in ways that you can't even imagine. So the two short-term lessons on how to manage stress are to bring your awareness to what is real and always remember your blessings. Now, what are some of the longer-term solutions for how we can reduce the fears in our life? And it is at this point that we can't go any further without talking about our attachments. Think of an attachment as a mental bridge that you've created to something that you care about, something that you want to hold on to and that you hope will never change. When we experience fear, it's when our mind starts to worry that something we love is about to change. So the solution to fear and worries is to have a mindset that is comfortable with change and willing to let go of the things that you love. Think about it this way. You didn't decide to be born into this body, into your family, or even this world. And after some time, you will have to leave it all behind. And you don't get a say when that happens. So all the mental bridges that you've created are slowly starting to crumble. We don't get to keep anything that we own or love. And when we become comfortable with dying, then all our other fears seem to diminish. A practice that I've used in my own life for many years is whenever I leave the house and I say goodbye to my wife or I drop my kids to school, I remind myself that this could be the last time that I see them. And that isn't me being morbid, that's just me reminding myself that at any time death can happen. When we do this, we start to live in a more detached way, where all outcomes are okay. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight, but if we practice mantras like, I don't mind what happens, we begin to flow with life and become comfortable with whatever life has in store for us. In the Guru Granth Sahib, there are many songs to the universe that say words like, whatever is in your command, only that will happen. Wherever you place us, there we stand. You may be thinking, of course I mind what happens. I mind if I lose my job. I mind if I get really sick. How will I get anything done if I don't mind what happens? Well, with this wisdom, we learn to live in a way where we do our best without worrying about the outcome. I like to think of worry like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Here's your practice for this lesson. At each moment, try to see if you can surrender control to the universe. Be comfortable that unexpected changes can always happen in your life. When we talk about spiritual masters, we're talking about people who have perfected this method. And when they do, they tell us that everything is perfect in life. And this doesn't mean that they don't have any responsibilities. It means that they've learnt to let go of control and embrace change in their life. Let's have a look at the questions to reflect upon. What was the last time that you were worried or stressed, and how did you deal with it? Is it unrealistic to expect to have a life that is stress-free? What other solutions have you found helpful to remove worries? Are there any simple steps that you can take to let go of your attachments? Things are always changing in life. Change is unavoidable. Every time you experience worry or stress, bring your attention to what's real, always remember your blessings, and be grateful. Your stress and worries are showing you the attachments that you still need to work on. I'm so pleased to have you on this journey with me, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.